2025 was the hardest year of my life, and I think it broke me both professionally and personally. Here's what I'm focusing on in 2026 to get everything that I want, what I'm teaching my clients to focus on, and some of these answers might surprise you. Are you ready? Let's get started. What's up, coach? Welcome to another episode of the PT Profit Podcast. I'm your host, Beverley Simpson. If this is the first time that you're hanging out, welcome. Super pumped that you're here, whether you're listening on iTunes or watching on YouTube. That's going to be one of the things that we've talked about and focus on in 2026. So I'm super pumped that you're here. As a former district fitness manager for a national gym, someone who's also generated 7 figures online and had over 10 years experience in this space, I have learned some things. And I have my clients do this same process every single year that I'm going to be sharing with you. And honestly, I've been doing it for years. In fact, I recently scrolled back through my episodes and I noticed that I have done a here's what I'm doing in 2023, 24, 25. And I've done it every year. So of course I can't kick off the year without this episode. So first and foremost, if you're anything like me and this episode is coming out on Tuesday, the 12th of January, you might even feel like, oh my gosh, I'm behind. I want you to collectively, I want to just offer to you and say to you that, hey, no worries. You are not behind. It is not too late. The timing is going to be what it's going to be. And we're still in a winter season. And even though people are in their high fitness, okay, new year, new me, I want to focus on this. The truth is, the gyms don't really get packed or busy until February. I noticed that February and March were our biggest months of the year. January was a slow burn. Especially in New York, you had blizzards every second day. People took extended holidays. People said, okay, they set their intention, they set their goals that they were going to do this. And then it really just took a minute before people actually decided, you know what, okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna work on my goals. So you're not alone and you're not behind. And if you're like me and you're starting and doing this process now, no worries. Congratulations, 2026 can still be your year. So let's get into it. Here's exactly what I wanted to. So if I were you, if I was brand new, so let me walk you through exactly step by step what I would do if I were you, whether I was brand new or I was seasoned and I was coming through a really successful year or I was coming through a really hard year. It doesn't really matter. This is exactly what I would do in order to grow my business. Now, first of all, first and foremost, the most important thing is we need to clear 2025. And this is true whether or not you had the best year of your life or you had a horrible year. You need to clear 2025. And frankly, 2024, 2023, anything that you are carrying from the past needs to be cleared. Because our actions as human beings are typically, I can't remember where I saw this stats, but we are repetitive in nature, meaning 95% of our thoughts are repeated from yesterday. On a subconscious level, we are constantly repeating the same thoughts. So if we know that to be true, don't we want the thoughts to then be reprogrammed to be thoughts that will serve us and not hurt us? I don't know about you, but I want to be living into thoughts that fuel my dream, not tear me down, not perpetuate this sense of fear. I don't want to have self-fulfilling prophecies. In fact, it's interesting because when I was home with my family in Florida for Christmas, I kept seeing examples of self-fulfilling prophecies coming to fruition. So what that means is someone would say, like my daughter would say, I don't want to be alone in the pool. And she would scream and cry and have a temper tantrum about not being alone in the pool because that was what she was afraid of. That's what she didn't want, only to then have everyone leave the pool because they didn't want to be in the room with her having a huge massive tantrum because she was splashing everywhere. She was being, she was making it unfun because she didn't want anyone to leave the pool. So that caused everyone to leave the pool. When in the reality, if she had I don't want to leave in the pool, so let me just hang out, let me have fun, let me go and spend time with the people that are in the pool and do what I would do as if nobody leaving the pool, that would probably have gotten people to stay. So I kept seeing examples of that over and over in different circumstances. And I took a moment to realize, hey, this is what I think I've been doing in my business, which is that I've just been holding on too tight, living into the fear of what I'm afraid is going to happen, only to then have it happen. And then what happens, because our brains are meaning-making machines, is we start to then go down this spiral of that means that's just more evidence of what I'm afraid of. So what ends up happening is you have a self-fulfilling prophecy. It gets fueled by your fear, and then evidence of it actually appearing and happening happens only to then reinforce that painful feeling that's coming up for you. This is partly why experience is a double-edged sword, because if you are not conscious of what the patterns that you are repeating year after year after year, you're going to continue to repeat them. This is why success can sometimes be your biggest Achilles heel. In fact, one of my first clients earlier in my career, we launched her business and she crushed it. Like, she had 3 to 4 back-to-back launches that were just amazing. So that when she had her 5th launch, and it was good, but it wasn't as good as the other launches, it totally caused a spiral because there was no real way of quantifying the success. She did not fully, which I thought she had fully understood, but she did not fully comprehend and understand all of the moving parts that are required to make a business successful. And so it was really a painful lesson for me when in the start of my career. But it's an example of why success can often be one of your biggest downfalls. And then what also happens when people have incredible years is that they start to get afraid, oh my gosh, what if I can't do it again? What if all the success is going to go away? And they start to panic a little bit. Especially, I don't know if you're like me, but I'm like that as well, where I start to feel oh my gosh, it's going to go away. What if I can't do it? And we start to get into that fear and noise. So this is why success or failures of the past is we have to be able to clear it. So what I like to do and what I like to have my clients do is I want you to take all of the incredible things that happened past year, and I want you to write all of it down, and I want you to extract the lessons. This is what happened. This is why it was amazing. Here's what I learned from it. This is what I'm going to continue to do as I go into 2026. And you're going to do that for your past years. Then we're going to do the pains. Okay. Now, if you're like me, it might be easier for you to focus on the disappointments. Okay, so if you want to start at the disappointments, start at the disappointments. So I have said and shared this on the podcast multiple times, but 2023 was going to be my year. I have shared this and said this multiple times on the podcast as time has passed, which is that in 2023, I really broke my business. I sold over 500 grand in contracts and I had about 250K default. So this is an example of marketer math that people often don't talk about. It happens all the time, but nobody talks about it because everyone wants to talk about top line revenue. They want to talk about how successful they are. They want to talk about how their process works. And listen, I get it. Me too. I do too. And I encourage my people to do and say the same thing. But then what ends up happening to so many people is that they start comparing themselves to other people's highlight reels without full transparency and look behind the scenes of what was actually happening internally. And this is what we're going to be talking about in this episode because it's really important. Is that even though I was so successful, it was completely broken and it was completely built on sand. And when the business kind of fell apart, And I was like, wait, how could I have all this debt even though I'm so successful? Like, where's the money? And I started to have these horrible experiences and feelings of like, it's never enough. No matter what I do, it's never enough. And so 2023 I thought was really hard, and then I carried that, and then in 2024 I started to clean it up, but I was still carrying the backpack. I was still carrying the pain of what had happened in 2023, so I could not get past it. Even though I had all this evidence of like, this is successful. You've cleared half the debt. You figured out a funnel that actually works, that calms your nervous system down. Like, I had so many successes in 2024, but I literally could not see them because I was still blinded from the pain of 2023. So then the same thing happened as I went into 2025, because I didn't do what I'm asking you to do right now, which is clear 2025. Clear the past, clear 2023, clear anything that is causing pain. And if you don't know if it need to be cleared, go to your feelings and really just look at your feelings. Do I feel bad? Because if you feel bad, it needs to be cleared. If you cannot get to a point of neutrality of what has happened, it needs to be cleared. So now people, and the same is true, by the way, like with joy. And what I mean by joy, let me say it in a different way, because it's the same is true for success. Meaning, if you are attached to the success of what happened, and there is a charge there of like, oh, this was so great, and then all of a sudden fear comes in, then that too is not neutral. So it's not that we want to push feelings down. We want to feel through it all. We want to experience it all. And we want to get to a place of being neutral. Now, that doesn't mean, by the way, as we start to go into this, you're going to see what I'm talking about, that we need to stay, like if our nervous system doesn't stay neutral, then that's bad. Then, oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong. That's not true. It's just like your nervous system, when you're working out, your nervous system comes into play. We run into issue when we cannot be fluid, when we cannot activate the nervous system and we actually take action and then come back down into a parasympathetic nervous state. Like, that is where we get into a problem. And so what happens to people who are in chronic stress, whether it's physical stress, mental stress, emotional stress, is that they're just constantly on. Their nervous system can never come down. And if your nervous system can never come down, then you are running the risk of perpetuating the things that you don't want, or fueling your self-fulfilling prophecy in years to come. And I saw that happen pretty aggressively in 2025. That's why I said it's partly what happened in 2025, which is that when I say that it broke me. So I went into 2025 feeling like, all right, we're going to get it. I've finally got this funnel that's working. I have the team in place that I'm happy with. I'm ready to grow, scale, and expand. And then literally life hit me starting in January. Personally, my husband cut off his fingers and was out of work for a week. We were in the ER. Then my back, I got incredible, excruciating back pain, which had me in the ER 3 times. I also had, my team completely fell apart. It wasn't necessarily bad or wrong. I just had some strategies in place that were not in alignment for my highest good. I had team members that did a great job, but also not in alignment with the business I wanted to build. I also had some team members in place that were excellent, decided that it was time for them to move on, which is fine. I'm all about moving on to better and greater. So it wasn't necessarily wrong or bad. In fact, it was really good. It just brought to light for me in the business that that there were some holes that were exposed. There were some open roots that I needed to take a look at, that were costing me both mentally and physically, and that were costing me both mentally and it was costing me emotionally, mentally, and actually the cash flow was costing me. So, and there were the ROI, I didn't have a way to truly quantify. So this was some of the things that had happened in 2025 that were breaking me. And then on top of that, my daughter, my 10-year-old, she's 10. She basically, is having a mental health crisis. She's having a mental health crisis, and it's it's serious. And it's beyond just the mental health. It's also, we've got some academic stuff at play. We also have some, so it's beyond mental health. We have some academic stuff at play. We have some neural wiring at play that's just a little bit different. And it took a very long time and a very horrible heartache for me to really grasp, come to terms with, and deal with. And so, and right at the end of 2025, I had this feeling of like, I kept getting pushed to, I would say to my husband, I'm getting pushed to the edge, and to edges that I didn't even know existed. And there were multiple times where I kept feeling like I'm at my capacity. I cannot expand anymore. This is going to break me. And I really felt like I was breaking. And I don't know what happened. I don't know how, I really felt like I was breaking. But then I realized I'm not breaking, I'm bending. And I have this client that talks a lot about like stretch yourself strong. That's kind of his like thing. And I remember seeing it, and it really like clicked in. It really clicked for me professionally and personally, because I realized I'm not breaking, I'm bending. I'm just bending. And I'm so strong that I'm capable of bending. And even though I kept feeling like this is going to break me, it didn't break me. I'm just bending. And so that was really kind of the sum of what happened in 2025. And it honestly, I didn't share a lot about it. I won't continue to share a lot about it on socials. And, I probably won't share a ton about it for no other reason than I'm just not an expert in it. I'm not available to share my daughter's struggles because this is going to be her digital footprint, and I'm also just not open to receive any feedback about what we're doing and about what I'm experiencing. It's just too exposed right now. I'm sharing it with you because it has really influenced the way that I'm approaching business and really influenced the way that I am personally showing up for my clients, for my business, and for you. And I think that this experience, these lessons are so valuable, and I'm so grateful now to have them, even though like I saw this quote, I don't know where I saw it, but I laughed out loud, where it was like, I wish I didn't have to experience it. I would have just rather gone to class to get the lesson. Yeah, same. So this is me giving you the class so you could just go to class and don't have to get the lesson, because honestly, it's very painful. So I really want you to clear the experiences, both positive and negative, of 2025. And in order to do that, I need you to just write down everything that happened. I want you to write down all of whatever emotional charge is coming up that needs to get cleared. And I'm going to recommend somatic clearing. So here's some of the things that I did for my nervous system. And I'm going to give you some tools. I'm going to tell you what I did and what I continue to do. Honestly, if it weren't for Helen, I'm telling you, I just don't even know where we would be right now. And it's funny because now at the beginning of 2026, I got the diagnosis for my daughter, and I got a full academic and social and emotional assessment for her. And honestly, I was so grateful for the diagnosis, even though there was one thing on there that is super scary. They did put her at high risk for unaliving herself. And the reason why is not because she is so sad. She is, by the way. So even though there was a scary diagnosis in the assessment, which is that they did put her at high risk for unaliving herself, not because she has a plan or even really wants to, but because she has this impulsiveness in her experience, meaning she gets so, we call them episodes, but when she has an episode, she completely loses access to herself and to her conscious thought. She has this impulsiveness where she could be one bad decision away from accidentally unaliving herself because she'll do things like run into traffic or try and jump out the window. So I felt so much better because now I'm aware of what I'm actually dealing with, the severity of what I'm actually dealing with. And now I can feel confident in knowing that I'm going to do my absolute best in planning and executing the plan to help her. And so now, in 2025, I was very quiet about what I was experiencing, mostly because it was just so horrific beyond compare. And I didn't know, nobody could really help, because I didn't know what I was dealing with. And when I would tell my friends, I could just see on their faces this glass eye movement go over them, not because they didn't care, not because they didn't love me, not because they don't love her, but just because no one really understands or knows what to say. It's like when you have a family member that's an addict and living on the street, and then you go to Christmas dinner at their house and everyone knows that the addict's not there, but no one knows what to say. No one knows how to manage that. It's a little bit like that. This is why we have professionals. So this is kind of, we're getting a little bit into what I'm going to be focusing on in 2026, and it's going to be mental health, both for myself, for my family, and I want my clients to really prioritize it. And we're going to talk about it in a second. But first, let's go through what we have to do. So we have to write it all out. If we have an emotional charge, we have to clear it. And so anyway, if I didn't have Helen, there's no way I would have gotten through it because it was just so awful. But now that I have this plan, and now I go back to people that I'm like, all right, I know the plan, and this is what we're going to do. They look at me with such pain because they don't know what to say. It's horrible. But in my mind, I'm like, oh, and this is so relieving to me because now I know what I'm doing. Now I know what I'm facing with. Do I know what the outcomes are going to be? No, but I'm confident that I'm going to do everything I possibly can in my power to help all parties involved. So again, when you have an emotional charge, the goal is not to not feel anything. The goal is to be able to feel everything and move through it to get back to neutral, get back to baseline. So whatever comes up emotionally for you, I want to invite you to clear it. I use a somatic process, a nervous system process that I worked with Helen on. And it's basically unfortunately, it's not one of those things that I can pass to you. You want to work with someone who understands these protocols, but I used RRP, which stands for Rest Restore Protocol, and SSP, which stands for Safe and Sound Protocol. And basically all you do is listen to music. That's it. And you're like, what? That's it? And yes, that's it. But then things come up. You have to talk to someone who is certified in this. But honestly, that's all I did. And it was so weird. If you are interested in this, just send me a DM at B Simpson Fitness, and I promise I will connect you to. But it was so weird because I would have this huge emotional surge. And honestly, I felt it now. Sharing this stuff with you about my daughter is very painful. And it has really pushed our family to the edge. And I have this urge to cry. I have this sensation. I have this feeling of I just want to cry. But I have no access to it. It feels it's like if the intensity of what I'm feeling is an 8, it brings down the charge to a 3. And it's so bizarre. It is such a bizarre feeling. I don't even know how else to share it. It's just so bizarre. That's not the only tool that I used, but it was instrumental and very helpful. Other ways that you can do it are shaking, breath work, working just basically really, you have to calm the nervous system down. Now, the truth is you actually really need to rewire it. But the problem is so many people are trying to meditate, they're trying to rewire their brain, and they're trying to do all these things without neutralizing the actual charge. And that's like trying to, get out of a car while it's moving. And I probably don't have to tell you how effective that is. So you really need to be able to do the somatic practice of neutralizing that emotional charge. If you can't, you need help. Like, it's just prioritize it, okay? Because then you need to rewire it. Then we need to change okay, this is what's happening. This is what I'm doing. This is how I'm going to rewire it. But in order to rewire, you have to neutralize, like, period. So once you neutralize it, you need to extract the lessons. This is how you can extract the lessons. So, like, talking about my daughter, now that I know that I have this plan, I feel so at peace because I know, like, this is what we're going to do. But when I share this with people, they're like stunned to how I can talk about this so calmly. And I'm like, well, that's because I've been working on my nervous system. And so once you extract the lessons, both from the successes and from the failures, then we can do what everyone talks about, number 2, which is set your goals, set your intentions. Okay? So when I did this process for myself, here's some of the things that came up for me that I thought was interesting. So I told you personally what happened personally and also professionally, mostly from the infrastructure side. But here were some other things that came up that surprised me and reminded me that I have work to do, which is that something that I think happens to a lot of seasoned professionals, and I think this is true also like when you are, working out, or you know how to work out, or you know how to eat, is that sometimes we all look for shortcuts, and your brain's designed to do this. We are designed to go the fastest path, go down the path of least resistance, and that is not always the best path. So like for me, for example, I realized that I keep telling myself, oh, I know what to do. I'm doing that already. But then I would skip steps and I would cut corners, specifically when it came to measuring metrics that matter. And for some reason, I do not know why, but this is the hardest thing for my clients to do. They have a very hard time quantifying their goals, setting targets, and measuring performance. Like, it is one of the most challenging things. People don't want to do it. It overwhelms them. They feel like, ugh, this is awful. This sucks. But listen, if you were going from New York to LA in a car, would you do it without GPS? Would you do it with a blindfold on? Chances are no. In fact, when planes are flying in the air, if they're literally 1 degree off path, it could put them in a completely different location than where the destination that they're going. And so this is one of those things that everyone says, okay, as soon as I hit 10K, then I'll do this. Or they'll say, I just can't do this. I'm going to spend money and hire an agency to do this for me. Or they say things like, oh, that doesn't really matter. Let me hustle myself to 10K and then I'll do that. But then you are going to run the risk of doing what I did and build your business on sand, and that is good for no one. And so what I realized when I actually put pen to paper is that I was taking shortcuts because I was telling myself I was too busy. I didn't have time. I didn't have capacity. And what I realized is that those are just my brain. That's my ego trying to protect me. And it's not true. Not all of it is true. Because when you are really honest with yourself and serious with yourself, and you put pen to paper, meaning you actually look. I'm saying pen to paper, but it could be calendar. Look at your calendar. Do a time audit. Your clients do this when they say things like, oh, I'm eating healthy and I'm not losing weight. When the reality is they're not counting bites, they're not counting licks, they're not counting the food that they're eating off their kids' plate. They're not mindful eating. They are mindless eating. They are they're going through their life not paying attention. I was doing the same thing in my business. My clients sometimes do the same thing in their business. And then what ends up happening is that when you're trying to take shortcuts and you're making decisions and they're not discerning decisions from data. In fact, my clients will come to me and they'll say things like, oh, my business is broken. It's not working. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? And I can see pretty quickly based on the things that they're showing me that I can know where the breakdown is just because I've been doing this for years. But I always am working to helping them see what the breakdown is so that they're not relying on me to do it for them. What does that say? How does that saying go? Teach a man to fish and he'll never go hungry. But if you catch the fish for them. I don't know, something like that. But it's the same concept. I don't want my clients to rely on me forever. I want my clients to be discerning in the data, being able to collect it, to evaluate it, and then to make decisions from it. And I had been joking and kidding myself that I hadn't been doing that. I had been doing some of it, but I hadn't been doing all of it. And so that's another big change. So we're going to talk about that as we go into 2026. But that was an example of something that I realized I had not been doing. My clients had not been doing it. Some other things that I realized that I'm going to be bringing also into 2026 as I was doing this part 1 exercise was that it is so easy for me to focus on the areas of opportunity. I'm so hard on myself. I'm so critical on myself that I cannot, it is very hard for me to see wins. And I think this is one of the biggest mistakes that business owners can get into. And I actually think that it keeps you broke. And let me tell you why. And even as I was saying this, because I say it to myself, like, I start to kick myself like, Beverley, you've been saying this for years and you know it and you just can't change it. And then I start being hard on myself for being hard on myself. And that pattern has to stop. It has to stop. And we're also told, oh, you're humble when you can just dismiss your wins and you actually only focus on your area of opportunities. That's not true. Because like I said earlier, when I first hit record on this podcast, is your feelings and your thoughts are fueling your frequency. If I was a softball player or a baseball player or whatever, and I was the pitcher and I'm throwing the pitch and I'm throwing it at what's going to be more potent and more effective when throwing 60 miles per hour or 30 miles per hour or 90 miles per hour or 97 miles per hour. So you fueling. And if you're like, well, how do I know? Whatever your predominant thought is going to be the one that has the highest charge. Whatever has the highest charge, the predominant thought, that's going to be the speed of your frequency. So you sometimes looking at your wins is like throwing a ball, 60 miles per hour, 30 miles per hour. So for me, I was perpetually doing this, thinking that this was me trying to be humble by looking at the ways that I could get better and then just completely dismissing what I did well. And that is going to keep you broke. Why? Because you are just fueling more critical thinking, more like looking for evidence of things not working out. And you miss it. I missed it. I'll say me, because it was true. I missed it. In fact, when I sat down with my coach to rework my simple scaling webinar, masterclass that I do, she was like, what? She was like, I did not even know you have this many case studies, this many testimonials. And I looked at her and I was like, I've been in business for 10 years. I've generated over 7 figures online. Of course I have all these case studies. And she's like, why are we not highlighting these? And that was when I had this moment of, because I'm so focused on what's not working that I'm not remembering, I'm not celebrating what is working. So it sounds counterintuitive, but every moment that something is going well, you have to switch it. You have to focus on, this is great. I'm doing great. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling so sad today, but I got up and I showered. That's a win. And when we were dealing with my daughter, let me tell you, every moment felt like that at times, where I would be like, I was scared to go into her room because I didn't know what I was going to find. But everyone made it out alive today. That's what it has to, like, if you're, so I'm bringing that up to say that, like, hey, there's nothing you could probably share with me that I can't celebrate or find a win. There's a win there. We're gonna find it. I help my clients celebrate their wins every week, and I don't even let them submit their check-ins to me without a win. Now, that doesn't mean, by the way, that like, because I recently just said this to my client. I was like, because she kept saying, oh, this isn't working, and I know it's my limiting belief. And I was like, hey, not everything is a limiting belief. Not everything is you needing to rewire your nervous system. Sometimes you have an unanswered how-to question. So it's part of living on the razor's edge, where it's both, where it's everything and nothing at the same time. So then when you can sit down to do number 2, and now that you have all your lessons, you can cast the vision. You need to be able to set the goal. Now, I know it's more than just like, here's my New Year's resolutions. This is literally setting your intention. Meaning, this is the goal, this is, and so what I like to help my clients do when we move into number 3, after they set their intention, is that we need to help them. The goal determines the play. And so once you get clear on like, this is a nice to have, I have my clients do 3 things, which is, this is nice to have. I like my clients to do 3 things. Like, this is nice to have. This is what I'm playing for. And then this is what I'm committed to. Because what you are committed to is different than I want this. This is what I'm committed to. And it's a different energy. And you will show up and you will be and you will do differently by getting clear on what you're committed to. So once we get that in place, now, so cast your vision. And we have to cast our vision in a lens of like, I use my will to set upon intent and I am committed to this for the good of all involved. That's what we're doing. Okay. And then once we're clear on that, now we do number 3, which is set up the strategy to execute in order to get the goal. So now here's something, and this is a big shift that I've been really moving my clients towards, is that once you're clear on the goal determines the play. So if you know that you want to bring in 5 clients, and now that's the target. So the goal, 5 clients. So now we have to set a target. Now a target means, if we know we want 5 clients in 30 days, then let's break that down into little targets. So let's say we want 1 client or 2 clients in the next 7 in this week. So this is the target, 2 clients, 7 days in order to hit that goal. Okay, now that we have the goal, we need to set up targets. So what is the difference between a target and a goal? Well, a target is going to be what okay, so now that we have the goal, let's break it up. And what I like to help my clients do, because if the goal determines the play, meaning if we know that this is the goal, then there's going to be a certain amount of audience and leads that needs to happen in order to hit the goal. So for example, if the goal is 5 clients, then the target becomes, depending on what your sales strategy is, but then the target needs to become, okay, I need 10 calls. And then the target is determined by the performance metric. The performance metric is a measurement of the binary action you take versus the outcome that happened, result that happened. So let me just break that down again, because this is something that my clients really struggle with. So I'm going to just share it again. The goal, 5 clients. The target becomes what needs to happen in order to get that goal. So meaning you are not a business without customers. So you cannot have a customer or client without a presentation of an offer. So in order to get 5 clients, you need to have 10 presentations of the offer. So the target becomes 10. Now, how did I determine the target? Well, the target comes from my performance, meaning I know that I will close 50% of my calls if they show. So that's my performance metric that's determining the target. Now, the game becomes, well, can I improve that? Can I close 80? Because if I close 80%, then I only need 6 calls. And then the performance metric is determined by the binary action. Did you do it or did you not do it? What was the binary action that you took? What was the result? And then measure it against each other. Meaning, if I booked 10 calls but only 1 showed up, that's a result, and that gives me a performance metric that I know I need to improve. And that's the game. And the whole game is, what are the actions that I can take to improve performance in order to reach the targets needed to hit the goal? And so now, a focus that I am helping people kind of think through and move away from is that there are going to be things that are in your control and things that are not in your control. So for example, you could set a goal of 5 clients, but that's not really in your control, because you're not going to be able to go, reach across the screen, get your clients to pull out their credit card, put their credit card, that's not in your control. But what is in your control is going to be the actions that you take. Are you setting up the environment in order for the action to happen? You cannot play football without being on the football field, period. This is why measuring your data is so important. Because when you know what the data is, when you know what you're looking at, then you can improve performance. Then you can shift. You either run the play or you change the play, period. It's a game. So before you start getting into that noise of oh my gosh, courses are dead. Oh my gosh, podcasts are dead. All of that noise, because we're looking out into this space and people are saying it, people are mentioning it. None of that is true. Look at the play. Saying courses are dead is like saying college is dead. And some people actually believe that, but other people are still sending their kids to college. It's like saying books are dead. Oh no, Google came, the internet came, books are dead. Most people are literally overestimating the capabilities of AI right now. And they're overestimating the user facilitating AI. Why am I saying that? I review hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of assets a week, and I can tell you, I know AI and I know what's not. AI is a powerful tool, but it's only as effective as the user using the tool. So for me, and then that's it. Once you know that strategy, then you execute and you be led, and then you manage your emotional state to run the play, period. Those 3 things. Get clear on what happened, clear the emotional charge, extract the lessons, set the intention, and then plan and execute the strategy. That's it. That's how you're going to get everything you want. So here's what I'm focusing on and what I'm helping my clients focus on in 2020 is number 1, and I started to talk about it a little bit, but number 1, the most important thing is manage your nervous system. Manage your mental health. I don't care if that's therapy, if that's medical assistance, if it's nervous system regulation, your mental health is number 1, okay? I can't tell you, I blubbed for an hour on how important mental health is. That's number 1. Then number 2. The other thing that I'm focusing on is getting ruthless, relentlessly ruthless on commitment. Meaning, am I actually being honest with myself about what I am committed to? Putting pen to paper and actually doing what it is I said I was going to do. Honestly, if you can do those 2 things, I promise you, your business will change. I've seen it change in my world, and it's going to change again. I just need to be relentlessly ruthless about what I am committed to. And let me be clear. Everybody is committed to something. Just most people aren't present to what they're committed to. And I'm choosing to be present in 2026. Am I being conscious about what it is that I'm committing to? And am I self-integrity? Am I doing what it is I said I'm going to do? And I realized as I was going through step 1, there are so many things that I promised myself I was going to do that I didn't do. I said I was going to prioritize YouTube. I kind of did, but didn't really. I said I was going to commit to a podcast a week, and I didn't really. I said that I was going to post 3 times a day for 30 days and then do it ongoing, and I didn't really. So that's not to shame myself. I'm sharing that with you because that is an example of not being honest with my word, not being present. And it's partly why I didn't get it in 2025. So this is why I want you to just be honest with yourself. And it's not, so number one, this is going to go back to what I'm focusing on in 2026 is my mental health. I'm not going to be hard on myself on it. I'm going to be present to it. I'm not, and as I'm sharing this with you, I'm actually for the first time, I'm not mad at myself. I'm not punishing myself. I'm not like looking at myself like, oh, you're so lame. I can't believe you haven't figured this out. None of that is present right now. And that is because of the work that I've been doing. So that's just really important. That's why it's number one. So if you're like me from just 6 months ago, prioritizing your mental health is just number one. And then number two, just getting relentlessly ruthless and honest with myself about what I'm committed to. And am I being true to my word and being self-integral? That's number two. And then number three, it kind of goes along with number one, but it's really also important. It's something that I see happen to a lot of people who haven't done number one, also who aren't doing number two. And I think that it happens a lot to people who are stuck in the grind, in the hustle, in that like $500,000, $600,000 range, which is you're trying to, you take on so much of what your client's responsibility is. And that was really a huge downfall of mine in 2023, 24, and 25, which is that I wanted to expedite my client's success. So I would try and do the work for them, but that is going against what is required, because I, again, am here to help you learn how to fish so that you can not need me. And I think it was coupled with me wanting to find my worth, what it is that I do. And that is not going to build a 8-figure brand. It's just not. And as someone who spends an extraordinary amount of time around very high successful coaches, I'm going to tell you right now that they are not holding the burden of their client's responsibility. They're not. And it is so important to me because I know there are so many people out there that get burned by horrible coaching, that get into programs that overpromise and underdeliver. It is a core value of mine to ensure that I don't do that to my clients, that I stay up at night literally thinking about how to help my clients be better. And that doesn't mean I have to do their work. And so this is like a huge lesson that I've needed to take into 2026, is helping myself know that my worth and my value is not determined by what it is I do. And the same is true for you. And holding people accountable to their own dreams, because you're an adult. I'm an adult. I don't need someone to hold my hand, but I do need someone to expose blind spots and to remove roadblocks. But I don't want anyone to do my work for me, and I'm not going to do my work for my clients. And this is what I am carrying into 2026. And what I want to invite my clients to do, and what I want to invite you to do. And honestly, there's so many more things that we're going to be talking about. But I've blah, blah, blah for a really long time. Okay, so in addition to prioritizing mental health and relentless responsibilities, some of the strategic things that I'm putting in place and that I want my clients to do is every client needs to have a path, a customer journey that includes a premium offer and a low ticket offer, like just plain and simple. Freebies are no longer working the way that they used to, which was, I've got this freebie, download the freebie, then book a call. Let me put ads to the freebie, then book a call, and then they're going to become a client. It's just not working in the same way. So every client needs to have a low ticket offer, a premium offer, the one that they want to scale, the one that they want to be known for. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to be high ticket, by the way. It can be a lower ticket offer. We have clients that have premium offers that range anywhere from $297 to $5K. So that's number 2. Then number 3, we need to prioritize one social channel where we can speed the lead to connection, and we need to have one search engine optimization. So a place where people can go deep, whether it's a podcast, whether it's YouTube, or it's a blog. We need to have some place for someone to consume our content. That's number 3. Then we need to have a way to and then what we need to be able to do is to understand and build a love-hate relationship with tools like GLP-1s and AI. Like, we need to prioritize that because those tools are not going away. And the ones who are smart and know how to either address the tools and or use the tools, those are going to be the ones that are going to successfully grow in 2026. And I want to encourage you, especially if you're like, oh my gosh, I just spent all this time building a course and nobody's buying courses anymore. It's just not true. That's noise. But the way that we are communicating our offers, whether it's a course or coaching, that is changing. And it's really important that we adapt and that we stay innovative and we don't put our head in the sand, because then you run the risk of becoming Blockbuster to Netflix. And if you don't know what Blockbuster is, that's my point. So you likely don't have to change your offers and programs or throw everything out with the window, but we do need to look at how we're communicating that value. So I'm going to go ahead and end the podcast here. But if you're curious about what the actual step-by-step strategy is, I host a free workshop called Simple Scaling, how I turn a $9 offer into consistent 50K months. So if you're curious about how to actually set this up and implement this, then check the show notes, check the description, and inside you'll find a link to join me there live. So thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Here's to your inevitable success in 2026. And I look forward to going through this journey with you.